an exclusive conversation with HDFC AMC's MD and CEO Navneet Munot, speaking on various structural trends, SIP trends, financials, manufacturing, and more. Listen in.
Automation, digitalization, I think some of these are very structural trend. And when we think about the capex from and just extrapolating the past trend may not be right, because the kind of capex that will be needed in future may be slightly different. For example, there is such a big transformation happening in the energy sector. It's happening in the transportation sector, and I can go on, where maybe what we were looking at from a capex perspective versus the capex that will be needed for tomorrow's world will be very different. Yeah. And we are clearly seeing, I think India is taking lead in some of those sectors, and maybe next few years, once people have a little bit of more clarity in terms of the technological changes and what's happening in the world, and then they put up a large money on the table and commit large sums.
Navneet, let's talk about financialization. I mean, 17,000 crore SIP number was unheard of, unthought of, some time back. Probably at this growth rate, we'll see much larger numbers going forward. And this entire ecosystem of asset management companies, some of the distributors and all of that, you see this financialization trend more structural?
I think this is just the beginning. And this can be compared with the 401k movement in US from 1980 onwards. And several of the large asset managers who are managing trillions of dollars today were managing few $1 billion then.
I see a big smile.
As India transforms from $3.5–4 trillion economy to $5–10–20 trillion economy, and we start from a very low base in terms of the amount of savings that come into the capital markets, I think we have a very long way to go. And I must thank on behalf of the industry to people like you who have been spreading the message of mutual fund sahi hai, invest for the long term, start early, invest regularly. I think all of that has also played a big role in creating the awareness among the investors.
Clearly, I mean, at least the data suggests that the juggernaut is rolling. I want to talk about some sectors, Navneet, the financial space, especially the lenders. We are seeing that the private sector lenders in India are seeing very good numbers. Large PSUs as well. Not only that, the small finance banks, the small borrower universe is also showing good growth. But fears are now emerging that probably NIMs could come under pressure, asset quality issues may. Is that fear legitimate or slightly early in the cycle?
No, I think the growth potential is very large, and as you mentioned earlier, I think the quality of balance sheet is pretty good. The growth potential is pretty large for next several years. I mentioned earlier financialization of savings, financialization of assets. I think there's tremendous opportunity on credit growth. The overall, in a country where you are digitally enabled and financially underserved, your ability to grow over the next several years has structurally gone up.
You spoke about climate change earlier. Though it is, the situation is very dire now, but does it also provide a lot of opportunity in power sector, in energy related areas? Because we are seeing that the legacy power stocks are doing well, power lenders are doing well, renewables are doing well, ancillaries like wire, cables, transformers, the entire space is kind of buzzing.
When you grow from $2,500 per capita to $5, $7, $10, I think there is potential for every sector to grow. And you talked about the energy, of course, it has to undergo a massive transformation. The entire transportation, the way we live, the way we kind of conduct our day-to-day business has to undergo a change looking at the climate change, which requires a newer way of thinking, which requires a different way of investing. And I'm sure we are going to see that over the next several years.
You got, as a house, the defense piece, pretty ahead of the curve, I would say. Anything else, the mega trend which you are researching closely?
There was a bigger faith on the revival or the renaissance of manufacturing in India, thanks to many opportunities. Government has a big focus on Make in India and all the supportive policies that they have been putting, right from whether a favorable taxation regime, whether the Make in India, the PLI, and variety of other supportive initiatives, including the infrastructure development, which is very good in the long run for the manufacturing sector because brings down the cost of logistics, the cost of power, the cost of factor markets. I think that's very good for the manufacturing in the long run. I think defense clearly stood out for us. We were pretty early in identifying that theme and has done very well.
So what's the
But
new
there is
contra call you've taken? What's the new contra call or something different or ahead of the curve, which as a house
No, I don't think that you have to really always look for a contra call, but in general, I think our view a couple of years back was that I think this whole quality at any price or growth at any price wasn't the right way of investing. You need to remain focused on valuations as well, and that call, I think by and large, has done.